Rich Strolis. I'm from Connecticut, originally from Massachusetts. I'm going to show you how to tie my Headbanger Sculpin today. If I had one streamer to fish and tie, if you held a gun to my head back home, this would probably be it. Two different hooks on here. The first one's a SP11 Gamakatsu, and then the front hook's going to be on the size 1 B10S, or you could use like a Partridge Attitude streamer. We use a Vivis 140 power thread and an olive. We're just going to start by laying down a thread base right from the eye of the hook, and we're going to go right down to a point right about where the beak of the hook is, and then trim off our excess. The next material is I have an olive and a yellow Marabou feather that I'm going to tie in at the tip. I like to wet the tips of this, kind of preen those fibers rearward, and I'm just going to tie them in right at that point where I've preened them back. And then I'm going to advance my thread to about the 3/4 mark on that hook. And then I put a 1/2 inch on there, because the easiest way to do this if you have a rotary vise is to use the rotary function on your vise. So then I'm going to take 2 of these feathers together. I'm going to give you a nice little model effect. So I'm just going to kind of turn, palmer this feather, these 2 feathers together. I can kind of pick some of those fibers out as I go. I'm going to preen those out after I tie this off. The next thing, this is a 2-part. I'm going to take a yellow Schlappen feather. I'm going to tie this in at the tip as well, and I tie this in at the tip because I want to work with the natural taper. So if you look at these feathers, they get gradually larger as you get closer to the base. So it's thinner near the rear and bigger towards the head. And then I'm going to take my cactus chenille, tie that in at the same spot. Once you get that wrapped in place, then we're just going to palmer our Schlappen right through the body of this. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take 2 barred crazy legs, tie them in at the center, take 2 turns, then pull one to the near side, one to the far side, like so. Wrap back over it, and then you're going to fold those forward facing ones rearward. And then we're going to invert the hook in the vise like so. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves some Arctic fox. You're going to want this to kind of bleed into the tail. We're going to reverse tie this stuff. So we're going to tie it in facing forward. Get that in place, and you can do a whip finish on there. Run that right up through the eye of the hook. Fold it over, make sure you grab it by the 2 ends. Pinch it like so that you can kink it. Next thing, we're going to put our B10S in the vise. So what you want to do is you don't want your beads to be right up against the eye of that hook, because now you've essentially made one giant unarticulated fly. You want to have a little bit of a loop there, so that way that tail is going to flow freely, just like you see here. The other thing too, when we go to tie this in, we want those 2 pieces of wire side by side on top of the hook shank. That's probably one of the most important pieces when you set this up. too. Wet the tips, tie it in. You're only gonna need about 4 or 5 turns of this time. If you've never tied with these before, you have to plan for them. So in order for me to make sure that I'm going to get this thing on there, I want to make sure I stop with ample space. Two more crazy legs. Same thing, right in the middle. One to the far side, one to the near side. Big thing here is when you set this, you want to make sure this bleeds into that rear portion. Like I said before, we're going to reverse tie it once again. Now the next piece here is I went some Pec Fins on here. If you look at a sculpin, they got Pec Fins that stick out. They're pretty three-dimensional, which is kind of how this fly is. Good. So I'm going to take 2 loose wraps. So the first wrap's loose, the second one's loose, and then I'm going to pull down on this. And I can kind of pull this stuff to either side. So if you take a look at it like here, it's coming out of both the left and the right side, not top and bottom. Right? Once I've got a good amount of thread on there, I'm just going to advance my thread right in front, and then I can whip finish it. Just like so. Clip that off. Take a little bit of gel Loctite, a little bit on the underside, just a touch on the top. Strolis. This is the Headbanger Sculpin that I just tied. This is in the olive and yellow version.